Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So today we're going to be revisiting one of the Season 4 units, the Azaps. Actually quite a requested unit, or one that people ask quite a lot about. Are they still worth playing now, kind of in Season 6? Because obviously the meta has changed quite a lot. And actually, by the time this video comes out, I'll have probably released my video on the Ceregs, and in many ways, despite being completely different units and different playstyles, they suffer from the same problem, in the sense that the unit itself is still good, and it hasn't been nerfed since it was released in Season 4, but the meta has kind of shifted a little bit, and the unit has suffered somewhat. Now, it hasn't suffered to the same extent as the Ceregs had. It's still a very decent unit, and it still has some really nice abilities, but it certainly isn't quite as dominant as it once was. So, I always go for that wrong button for some reason. If we have a look at its abilities, they've got three main abilities. Obviously a charge, they're not a particularly great charge, they don't do a lot of damage in landing the charge, but the two important ones are the counter strike, or counter postures, depending on what you want to call it. And this is where, when an enemy unit tries to stab at them, they basically parry with their sword and then counter attack and hit the enemy. So this means they can walk up to things like fortabraccios, pike militia, and actually stun them and you know, deflect the fortabraccio hit, walk up to the fortabraccio and counterattack back. That means they're able to get through walls without taking too much damage, which is what makes them really quite effective. Other than that, they have like an on-watch, which is similar to the Condottieri's shock attack. Works in a similar way, probably slightly better, and they have a slightly natural underlying counter-strike where they sort of, you know, have a small percentage chance of naturally posturing an enemy attack. But for me, the counter-strike is a really good ability because it enables you to get really close to things like fortabraccios. Particularly as we're going to be getting epic doctrines introduced into the game very shortly, and that is going to be introducing pike stun back into the game. So fortabraccios are going to be starting to stun enemy units, so things like Azaps in this sort of capacity will probably work a little bit better. Elsewise, I've gone down the top veterancy line for the counter-strike, because this is kind of what I like the most. It keeps the unit alive the longest, but equally I think the bottom line works pretty well as well, because a lot of people just use the on-watch for its just raw damage, and its raw damage is actually really good. So, you know, either or kind of works, both are workable, viable lines. The unit itself has a pretty decent amount of hit points. You know, we're almost at 11,000, so that's not too bad. Slashing defense-wise, they actually do okay at 604. Piercing defense a little bit lower. You know, they're not going to be performing particularly well against enemy range if they start getting shot at. But if you can get in nice and close, particularly with that on-watch, you'll absolutely cut enemy range units to pieces. Other than that, there's not really a lot to say about them. Their unique ability is the counter-strike. That's what makes them different to any other unit really in the game. Certainly an interesting unit. And let's hop into some battles, see how we've been getting on with them, and see what we can do with them. So we are now into the fight on Sun City. Initially, I'd been kind of just using some of the artillery over at the B point. Decided it was about time to push time, because they're starting to move some enemy forces towards A, because actually, you know, where they've got the siege towers set up. So as we come down, we see some stuff coming frontally to the point, so I'm thinking, let's go behind the building and go around behind them, particularly if it's going to be stalwarts. Unfortunately, they also come up with some halberdiers. So as we go in, I use my counter postures so that we can get close to the unit while taking pretty minimal amounts of damage. Push through the unit, and I just push straight into the back of the stalwarts and go straight on with my 3 ability, my on-watch, just to get that maximum damage. Because once we're behind the stalwarts, they can't do any damage to me, so we just want to try and kill them as quickly as possible. That's why I just push the Azaps straight into the back of the unit and just go straight on with their damage skill. Okay. So not too bad a start. Got sort of 30 or so kills for only 1 unit loss. So I throw them back on the supply point, because there's no other enemies yet on the wall, and, you know, with the unit a bit damaged, we're going to take a lot more losses quite quickly. So, you know, it's well worth getting them healed up. So I'm just playing around a little bit while we're waiting for the unit to get healed up. Just clear out. I don't know, there's a little bit of an optimistic condo charge by the enemy there. But as they start to stack a little bit more stuff up on the siege tower, I call the Azaps back to me and kind of get ready for the next fight, because they're clearly going to start trying to push the A point at some point soon. And on Sun City, on this map, holding the A point is actually quite hard. It's quite a hard map to do it on. and they're starting to pour off the siege tower now, but they mostly seem to be fighting on the staircase heading down. I'm trying to find my best way around, but with those flamethrowers, I just go in the back. I should have gone for my on-watch here, not my on-postures, because we're flanking round behind them, we're the ones doing the damage. I should have gone for my damage ability over the counter-strikes. But as we push through, you know, we're just smashing through this unit of stalwarts here, particularly as we're on the flank of them as well. And we quite easily push through them, and we're just getting them pinned into the corner. And by this point, it's so easy for us to outflank them, we can really just do a lot of damage. Just push around the back, and that really spells the end of them. The Azaps wanted to continue the fight. They were keen to go down the siege tower, but I was less. Wanted to get them back to heal up, and I was also thinking about that Treb might be coming in quite soon. So we push through the point, and I'm thinking about getting back towards the supply point now. So all in all, we've lost 3 models from the unit, but we're at about 70 kills. So, I don't know, I was pretty pleased with that. And we've wiped out some pretty decent quality units. You know, stalwarts are great from the front, and of course, Azaps not going to be able to beat them from the front, but when you get them round the back, they do really, really well. They do a lot of damage, and they cut through them quite easily. And for that, they're a nice, fast, mobile unit. So then, as you saw there, I had a look at my mini-map and noticed that the enemy is pushing towards the B point. I've been really trying to sort of work on my situational awareness in this sort of situation, because it's so easy just to sit on A, you know, thinking, oh, the enemy will come here when they go and then capture the B point, which is obviously not good for the team. The stalwart player here, he didn't do a particularly good job. He basically pushed too far forwards. He would have been better staying further back while he was on his own, and so basically ended up with people in front of him and behind him. And yeah, as we just saw, stalwarts die when they get caught in that sort of situation. So with the B point cleared and this section of the wall currently clear, I'm trying to make my way back round to the A point. That's what I want to get to try and save it, because it's obviously under quite a lot of threat at the moment, so that's where I'm heading. So just try and grab the hero kill on the way. Unfortunately didn't get it, but it was worth a try. And we're kind of now pushing back towards the A point. We can still see, so far we've still got some friendly units there, and even with these enemy stalwarts pushing up behind, they're not yet pushing off the siege tower. But as we actually get here, there's a lot of stuff here, and a lot of enemy heroes, and I'm the only friendly player here, and I decide it isn't worth it. And, you know, it's always hard in these sort of situations. You have to be fighting for the points, and a lot of people probably do give up points too easily sometimes. But in this case, I'm the only friendly player against 5 or 6 enemy heroes with units, including stalwarts and pikes. There's no point in just suiciding, particularly if I'm not going to be taking anything else with me. You know, if I could wipe out a decent amount of enemies in the process, then it's not really too bad, because at least you're taking something else with you. But in that case, it would have just been suicide, and I really wouldn't have achieved a lot. So I decided I still had the opportunity to get out of there, and so I did. But unfortunately, it means we have now lost the A point. So from there, I fell back through the supply point back to the B point, because that seems the next logical place that they're most likely to be pushing. Always a little bit of a tough one, I think, in this. Sometimes the enemy team really pushes the B point, but sometimes they all rush C. So you've got to be careful to not go and stack too much on the B point and get yourself, you know, in a situation where they go and capture C and outflank you. So the stalwarts pushed up and immediately formed a line right in front of our pike unit. No point me pushing there frontally. I need to get behind. It's going to be the only way to kill them. And the team is now fighting on, so I felt I had to go in here. So I go in here. I'm coming in behind, so I go straight on with my damage ability. We are starting to take damage pretty quickly, and we start to get hit by a trebuchet now. Not much I can do. I'm in the fight now. There's no point worrying about the treb, in my opinion. So I just go for it. I'm pushing through. I want to finish off this stalwart, which we actually get through. We completely wipe that unit of stalwarts. And, you know, we lose a lot, though. We're down to only 11 people left in the unit. And pretty well, the unit is almost over now. But I decide, well, let's try and save what we can with it. It's been a good match with them so far. Let's throw them back on the supply point. See if we can get them healed up, get them back in the fight, and do something else with them. So, if we're thinking of what happened there on B, kind of a tough situation. I kind of thought, you know, if we've got to try and defend it, we've got to kind of get stuck into the fight at some point. And so we kind of went for it. Shame that trebuchet landed. I think if it hadn't, then we would have got away with fewer casualties. But we were able to basically completely wipe that unit of enemy stalwarts. So, not too bad a trade, really, all things considered. It does mean the B point is pretty much done for now. I could have stuck around, but the unit you know, considering they're pretty much all in the red, would have died incredibly quickly. And really wouldn't have took a lot else with it, I don't think. So I think falling back there once the unit had sort of done its bit kind of was the right decision. So anyway, with the unit healed up, I'm thinking about where I want to be going to next. Kind of want to be thinking, you know, where my next fights are going to be. Obviously, we're quite an under-strength unit now, so I want to be trying to pick smaller fights if I can. I'm thinking I don't quite know why this guy went forward solo with his flamethrowers. I couldn't quite understand that, and I didn't. No point me going forward with my hero because I would just die. There's clearly too many enemies there. My unit hadn't turned up yet, and even if it had, I wouldn't have been able to defend those flamethrowers with 11 Azaps. So that bit aside, I'm trying to find smaller fights. That's why I'm thinking around this little cluster of buildings here on my left is my best opportunity. I would really love to get stuck into that unit of shields there. That would have been a nice sort of opportunity. But a little mini hero fight breaks out down here. So we come and have a look and think about getting involved down here. Managed to get a flying Reaper in and secure a kill there. And then we have to dodge a paladin charge. Paladin charge will do a lot of damage to these Azaps. So by dodging the charge, well, it makes their charge completely useless. Now we can get stuck in with the hero and the unit. I've obviously got them on my damage ability, push in as well with the counter postures, and actually we cut through these unit of paladins relatively easily, particularly once their hero is dead and they're being damaged from behind in the front. Not really all that much they can do in that sort of situation. I'm then getting back on my horse and I see the C point is actually getting capped, so I wondered if there was a bit of a push on C. But as we come around, we're getting hit by Falconetti, and a bit like those flamethrowers we saw earlier, I'm not quite sure what these Falconetti expected to happen. Unprotected by themselves, I'm calling my unit with them, just going with the hero, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a given. In this sort of situation, it's never going to end particularly well for them, and obviously we get amongst them. I just get my counter postures on in time to slightly resist the cavalry charge, because cavalry do get slightly blocked by the counter postures, although the Azaps will still get, you know, do quite a chunk of damage. But realistically, those armigers actually died pretty effectively, but more importantly, we killed the hero and that unit of Falcos. For that sort of thing, you know, this is a fast mobile unit, they work perfectly in that sort of situation. So I just now leave the unit to attack by themselves. Only 4 of them left. It's time to grab a new unit now. But anyway, that's all I've got for in today's video. Hopefully you've kind of enjoyed this little look at the Azaps. They are a nice unit. They're not quite what they were in Season 4, because we have a lot more stalwarts and paladins in the game now, and that has kind of changed things up a little bit. But they are still a very solid unit. They are really nice for killing enemy heroes, particularly on their 3 ability, because they sort of push them around a little bit. So they're still a very effective unit. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Do let me know what you think in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks guys, and I'll see you all on the next one.